share a little artist talk about my new show, Finding My Way, at Lon Retreat in Point Lonsdale. It's a little different to my previous work, so I thought I'd show you a little bit of the thought process and ideas that went in behind it. It's a landscape body of work. I haven't shown landscapes before. This is my first time. I'm very excited, but also of course very nervous too. It's also my first solo show in 5 years. So thanks to COVID and lots of other reasons, babies, life. So I am so thrilled to finally put this show together, and it's been in pretty extraordinary circumstances that I've created it. I signed up to do this show nearly 2 years ago, and it was funny because when I did, Claire at Lon said, you know, anything could happen in that time. You could have another baby, and what do you know? What do you know? That's exactly what happened. So Ned's now 5 months old, and I produced this show whilst I was in late stage pregnancy and early postpartum, but for some reason, for me, this window of time is like hyper productive, and I just feel so exceptionally creative. So I just lent into it and took advantage of every nap, and I just rode out the sleep deprivation, and something magical happened. And I think that's actually shown through the work a little bit as well, where different times of day and little snapshots of moments are sort of these little windows, just like what you get with a newborn. What I essentially signed up for was a residency at Lon, and you get access to the property to then produce a body of work inspired by the property or local surrounds. It's this beautiful 250-acre property in Point Lonsdale with beach access. It's a hotel. It's a beautiful award-winning spa, and I went out quite a few times. I knew I wanted to do landscape, and I often set myself challenges within the next body of work. So I always assess what I've learnt from the previous body of work and what I would like to challenge myself and take into the next body of work to work on, improve, develop. And this one I really, really wanted to do landscape. So I thought this was such a perfect scenario. So I ventured out onto the dunes. I went for walks around the property, but it wasn't until my final trip out there when I was like 32 weeks pregnant or something like that. And I went down to the moonah forest, which is down the back corner of the property, a bit of a walk. It was a hot day. I was lugging far too much stuff, cameras, equipment, painting stuff. I wanted to do some plein air whilst I was down there. I really wanted to take advantage of the whole situation, but it was unseasonably hot and I was just dying. It was so unbelievable, and I was on my own. So I was trudging along with all this gear, super pregnant, sweating. It was salty, it was windy. But by the time I got there, I was so thrilled to be in the shade, and it was just awe and discovery around every corner. It is so incredible. This moonah forest is one of the oldest pockets of moonah on the coast there. And it's funny because moonah is actually, coastal moonah woodlands are actually listed as a threatened species, as you could probably understand with all the coastal development. First thing that gets cleared is the moonah. So to be among such ancient trees was just like spiritual. It was amazing, and instantly it just grabbed me, and the trail, the walk, the sun, the adventure, the moonah themselves, this whole thing just felt so special. So I thought, this is it. This is what I've got to do. I'm going to paint here. I'm going to use this as inspiration. Little did I know that I would then like fold in all these other layers down the track. So yeah, I spent a number of hours down there and then trudged back, sore feet, all swollen, pregnant. Oh God, it was a sight to be seen. Someone pulled over on the way back to make sure I was okay. And then from there, I pretty much started work straight away. I had the idea. It was like a lightning bolt of inspiration. I just hadn't had that for a while. So it was really exciting, and I love taking that energy into the studio. So anyway, and then along came Ned, and I didn't really get put really too much brush to paper. So it wasn't until the newborn phase that I really got to throw myself into it. Once I got into the studio, I thought it would all naturally flow really easily because I was just so excited to get into it, but it didn't go that way. I really sort of stuffed around a fair bit and was trying to find my feet in landscape because I haven't pulled together such a significant body of landscape work before. I've done little collections, I've done a lot of auto plein air work, but never like a completed body of work. So I felt a lot of pressure. I also tend to naturally put a lot of pressure on myself for a solo show. It's probably one of the reasons why I don't do them that often, because I just feel immense pressure, and sometimes I feel like that can stifle my creativity as opposed to open it up. But in this instance, I ended up being with a bit of fussing around, a bit of play and experimentation. I found my feet, found my way. You know, there's so many ways this. In reflection, there's so many ways this title makes sense to me now, and then it just took off, and you couldn't get me out of the studio. I was here all the time. Every nap, every little snatch bit of time I would take, I would be out here, and it just made sense, and I just had so much drive and purpose to what I was doing, and it felt very natural. So I was very, very excited. I produced probably twice as much work as what I needed to through that play and experimentation, and trying to find out what I was doing and which parts were working. And I had to be really cautious and careful with the editing at the end. I got a few people to come and help me just view and work out what is and isn't working. I then had to put some sort of rules in place to kind of go, this one makes the cut, this one doesn't, this one fits in the show, this one maybe we like it, but it doesn't really fit in this body of work. And the finished 20 pieces, I just am so excited to finally be able to share them all with you. The works themselves, I really wanted to focus on getting a more immediate result for the viewer with watercolor, because watercolor is often hidden behind glass, and even though non-reflective glass is amazing, you still have this sort of distance between you and the work. So I've been experimenting for probably a few years now on other alternative ways of presenting watercolors without the glass. So I've got some works on ampersand aqua boards, and I've also got some works that are on watercolor paper, but they've been stretched on stretch bars and gallery wrapped around them and presented just in a shadow box frame. So there's some different ways to play with watercolor there, and it's got this really contemporary and interesting feeling. And I think it doesn't necessarily represent like a watercolor work anymore because of that. Underlying factors all the way through the work is that I challenged myself to use more granulating pigment all the way through. I had this realization whilst I was playing with it that the granulation sort of reflects that salty, dusty feeling that you get when you're out in the dunes and down by the beach, that film you get on your skin by the end of the day, and it has that same sort of look in the paint on the paper. So underneath, like within every single work, there's this little subtle granulation. You've got to look up close, but it is the pigments are just separating, and you get this little bit of texture, and I just love it so much. Granulating pigment is when the pigment particles separate, and you get a little sense of movement and texture on the page. So that was something I was really excited about, and it's one of the early sort of linking things that brought everything together. Each work sort of represents this feeling of being among the trees, of this protective, benevolent force that's around you when you're in the forest. It is a really, really special feeling, and I know the Japanese call it, it was this, like, the whole experience was essentially like that Japanese concept of forest bathing, where you just walk away feeling so grounded and so healed and so connected to nature, that this is this feeling that I was trying to imbue in all the work. So there's a lot from within the canopy, looking up and around, and this feeling of being surrounded by beauty and protected by beauty. The title itself, Finding My Way, found myself almost instantly. It came to me whilst I was in the forest itself. But it was funny because at the time it was me finding my way along this dusty, dirty little track, super pregnant, not really sure of where I'm going. Could I have taken the wrong turn? All those little bits of anticipation and excitement along the way. And I loved that feeling. I wanted to capture that as well and put this into the work. But then as I produced the work and going through the process, I realized I wasn't only just finding my way in the literal sense of on a path. I was finding my way in so many different ways, and I feel like this is such a huge step forward for me. And I'm finding my way through landscape painting. I'm finding my way through motherhood and navigating painting and a creative life with babies, and I think all of that has been, everything that I've been through this year is embedded in this work, and it's my most honest and personal series I've done yet. The show's on at Lon Retreat and Spa in Point Lonsdale from the 14th of November until the 5th of January 2025. Otherwise, you can always view it on my website, nataliemartin.com.au. I'm sure I'll share the links and all of that jazz. So yeah, I'll show you some of the works, and please shout out if you've got any questions.